All right,
All
guys,
right.
this is episode 6, Mobility Demystified.
Yeah, so today we're going to explain the difference between flexibility and mobility. A lot of people think they're the same, but there are slight differences between them.
We're also going to talk about how this applies to your everyday life and what you need to move well.
A lot of people stretch and they wonder why, they're still pretty much not flexible. But usually stretching is not always the answer. Usually it's a stability issue. So you could stretch all you want, but there's only so much you could do. What do you think about that?
I think it's true. And, look, more to the point, I think modern lifestyles have you sitting at a desk and, you end up with crossed-in shoulders, a protruding neck, and tight hips, right? And there's only so much and so far that flexibility will take you. So as you do these very static stretches, it's great. You might feel a stretch, you might provide some relief, but you won't have access to that range. So to explain the difference between flexibility and mobility, flexibility is what your body allows you to do, and mobility is what you have access to. And what I mean by that is mobility is something that you can actively move your way through, such as moving your arm overhead, as opposed to flexibility, which would be having some kind of external force on your arm, which your shoulder would allow to go this far back, right? I'm able to move my arm this much overhead, which means that I have the mobility and also the flexibility.
Yes, so to simplify it even more, just think of a rubber band. So a rubber band, think of a rubber band is stretched very far. So that is flexibility. Mobility, the rubber band is stretched very far, but you could move under control when it's very stretched. So that's just to simplify it.
Yeah, control versus not having control.
Yeah, so flexibility is okay, but if you don't have mobility to move freely with load, that could cause injury, and that's a problem. All right, so now we're gonna talk about how do we build mobility. The first one, train mobility like a skill. What do you think about that?
I think it's true.
Yeah.
So look, guys, the best way to gain mobility and to train your mobility is the same way that you do in the gym, right? You find your starting point, you find what your body's allowing you to do, and you work within that range. You don't push for too much too soon, but you actively engage your muscles in a range of motion that you currently have access to, and then over time, the threshold will increase.
Yep. So think of mobility as again when you training it like a skill. Think more of kind of reps as opposed to time. I mean, you can do time, but I like to think about it as in terms of reps.
Oh, and you know what? To speak to like our whole thing about minimum effective dosage, we're all about quality over quantity. So to speak to his point about time, you can spend a lot of time that is not quality. You're accruing a lot of quantity, but it's not quality. The quality of what you do in your range of motion will carry you much further than the time that he was talking about.
Yes, it has to be quality time under that tension. Yes. All right.
Just like any relationship.
Just like any relationship. Yep. Yeah, so the second one is going to be prioritize control range of motion. So that'll be something like cars. You guys have heard that. That's where you go in a controlled, slow manner. That's just an example. And you really reach, you really reach, you really reach. If you feel stuck, then you're going to stop.
Right, and then the CARS is short for controlled articulated rotations. So really, it's happening at the shoulder and at the hip, right? You're taking it, your ball and socket joints, through a full range of motion, or to Edie's point, as much as you can, to try to acquire more mobility over time as you perform the reps, quality reps.
Yeah, so the third one I like is loaded stretching. So that's simply just going into a position with some load. So that's like you having, I don't know, a dumbbell kettlebell, you're going down into a deep squat and you're just having it pull you down, and you just hold, you breathe for 3 to 5 seconds, and then you stand up.
Yeah, and another way to think about the loaded stretching is that you can use the weight as a counterbalance to help you pry deeper into whatever your position is, or you can use it as a weight that pushes you more into it.
I mean, there's variations of loaded stretching, to be honest. There's the active and passive. Yeah. That's where you actually you contract the antagonist muscle. Like say if you're doing a loaded stretch in the bench, yeah. you activate. So you're doing a loaded stretch on the bench. You contract your back, okay? You contract, or the other version, you just let it pull you down. You just let it pull you down. So there's a bunch of versions of loaded stretching.
Yeah, and we'll show you one where you can use the goblet squat to actually sink lower and lower into it. And to speak to the point of a counterbalance, you put the weight out a little bit out more in front of you, you stay upright, and it allows your hips to sink in a little deeper. It's pretty cool, but that is the application of wedging in deeper with an external load that facilitates it.
The fourth one is integrate mobility into your warm-up. Short term, we just do dynamic warm-ups instead of static stretching, which, yeah, I mean, I prefer doing static stretching after your workouts, to be honest. So just implement a dynamic warm-up. An example of a dynamic warm-up is just the world's greatest stretch. The world's greatest stretch, the 90-90 hip rotations. That is an example. Shin boxes, yes. Shin boxes, yeah.
And to Edie's point about not doing the static stretching before your workouts, that can actually be detrimental to your workout, right? Holding whatever muscle it is in that stretched position for an extended period of time can actually decrease that muscle's performance before you work out. So another reason to not do that before you work out, but rather after.
And why is that? Because remember, I told you when you stretch, it sends a signal to your brain to kind of relax. And you don't want that, especially if you're going to lift heavy. So leave this static stretching till after your workout. So dynamic before, static after. All right. The fifth one of the favorites, breathing. Just simple breathing. You could go with box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second out. You could do it crocodile style, so that's you on your
face down on the ground,
face down on your tummy. You could do it on your back with your legs bent. There's a number of ways you could do it, but just breathe. 2 minutes of breathing usually kind of opens you up.
So the other thing about breathing is that you can actually use that to help release and open up muscles more and more, especially if you can use your body's leverage against the muscle you want to relax. But an example, if you're doing a floor windshield wiper, you can extend one leg out to the side, and as you breathe with whatever the end range of motion currently is, and as you relax, that leg will drop lower and lower to the ground, eventually to end up touching it, because the breath work you're doing allows the muscle to relax, and the weight of the leg opens it up more and more. To remember to
sounds
that.
Complicated.
It sounds complicated, but we'll show you.
We'll show you guys.
We'll show you through the breath work,
it's not
right, as we do it, and you're just going to see the leg drop lower and lower and lower to the ground. And you know, my back is pretty tight right now, so it's a perfect example to show you how you can open it up with just breath work and a little bit of leverage.
So the sixth one is be consistent and not aggressive. We've spoken about movement snacks. Movement snacks, just doing simple, every hour you do a couple, world's greatest stretches. Even in the morning when you wake up, I highly recommend in the morning you do a couple of, you just put a nice little routine together, 2 to 5 minutes. And then you're good to go.
Yeah, what Edie's talking about, basically, if you have the luxury of being able to grease the groove on your mobility work throughout the day, over time, you're going to be amazed with how far you come. And to his point about movement snacks, so you do a stretch here, then a few hours later or an hour later, you do a stretch there. And as you accrue this over time, it's not going to feel like a lot of effort, but it will go very far, and you'll acquire more range of motion.
Yeah, the more you do it, daily, I would say daily. I mean, again, you don't have to do it 3 times a day. I mean, at least once definitely, and I recommend you do that in the morning. Start your day right. The less you'll have to do it in the gym. I mean, we don't want to waste too much time in the gym. Quick warm up, dynamic warm up, get to the weights to go home to do fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So a couple of common mistakes I see. One of them is treating mobility as an afterthought. What do you think about that?
I think it's true. I think, look, in my last video, I was talking about how people have a more is more mentality. And I think that it's very easy to fall into this mindset of, look, I'm just here in the gym to work. I'm not here to focus on stretching or recovery or whatever. I've got to get stuff done. Look, it was a while back, I remember reading that if you don't focus on your mobility, then your ability to express your strength will be limited by it. If you don't get your muscles moving right, if you don't get your body moving right, then your lifts are going to suffer for it. You're not going to get through full ranges of motion, or if you do, it's going to take much more effort than it otherwise would if you were working normally within that range.
Yeah, and I mean, you see a lot of that, especially when you're getting older. I mean, when you're young, you get away with a lot of stuff. You just get away, you just go in, you hit your 315 or whatever, not like I ever benched 315. But you literally never warmed up. But the older you get, I kind of treat You know, usually the warm-up is kind of actually half of the workout, because all we're doing is just trying to not get injured, and just get stronger. That's all we're trying to do. So don't treat mobility as an athlete.
If you're young, understand that the more you develop strength in a range, right, by working it, by controlling it, the more that will optimize your lifts when you're performing an overhead press, deadlift, squat, whatever it is.
The second thing we did, Mark actually mentioned earlier, was stretching, static stretching before you're lifting. And the reason is, again, your muscles sends the signal to your brain to say relax. That is going to be a bad thing for you, especially if you wanna break your PR that day. Yep. The third thing, we mentioned it earlier, is not loading your stretching, aka loaded stretching.
So this calls back to what I was saying about how you can use weight to pry and wedge into a deeper range of motion. An external weight will also cause other muscles to fire up, right? So everything is working. Let's take a deep squat, for example. As you're holding a goblet squat and you put it out a little bit in front of you to pry yourself deeper, a lot is working, right? There's a lot of upper body tension, your core is on, everything in the lower body is working. And as you use the weight, it's much easier to get all these muscles firing than, let's say, if you would just had your hands out here or clenched out in front of you, right? That external load provides a lot of stimulus to your body to fire up in that range of motion. And as we discussed, the more your body's firing up in these deep ranges of motion, the more you're acquiring that mobility.
All right, guys, to wrap up, the difference between flexibility and mobility.
Flexibility is passive and mobility is active. And what will most greatly impact your quality of life and how you move through it is your mobility. Flexibility can help with mobility, but you have to make an active effort to acquire the mobility. Quality over quantity.
Yes, and like one of my coaches, every damn day. If you do it every damn day, your body will thank you.
There's a lot of different integrations you can use for this. You can use weight, you can use body weight. I'm a big fan of stake mobility as a system, right? Where you use something externally to help wedge you, not a weight per se, but you use something externally to wedge into deeper ranges of motion. Whatever it is, get your body moving, challenge your range of motion, get to your limit and see if you can hang out there and own it.
All right, so the challenge I have for you guys, in the next 7 days, just get your mobility, your hip mobility. So just go into the deep squat, see how you feel, shoulder mobility. And just take 2 to 5 minutes, especially in the morning, or you could do it multiple times a day. Just do a dynamic warm-up.
So guys, for more gym tips, exercise demos, workouts, everything, hit follow and subscribe, and head to geteverreadyfit.com to check us out.
Yep, and see you guys next week.
Stay strong.